and this is the Nonprofit Corner podcast with your host, Dr. Victoria Boyd. And welcome to the Nonprofit Corner podcast with your host, Dr. Victoria Boyd. And it is my pleasure today. We have sort of a heart thing going on. He's a man of my soul here. But this is Sean Delaney. And we have found out in our little discussion already that we have some things that we really are in line with. But before we get into the meat of this conversation, Sean, just tell us what path led you to where you are today. Just give us some of your background. I don't want a bio. I want that path that got you where you are today.
Yeah, the path that got me here. So put myself through law school at college and law school as a stand-up comedian and realized that being a lawyer and a stand-up, there wasn't much difference. And I decided to do neither. And then went into corporate America. And then for 25 years, I've worked with I was a consultant for some of the biggest brands in the world: MetLife, Nike, Uber, J&J, Ford, and had a lot of success there, finding out that really all business is the same, whether it's shoes or financial services or left-handed widgets. All business is the same. It's all just a value exchange between individuals that we've commercialized by putting dollars to it, right? It's all just a value exchange between people, and that there's 10 fundamental things that run through every single business, whether
Absolutely.
and any real organized value exchange, like a bake sale or a $7 billion enterprise. The same 10 fundamentals have to be addressed if you're going to have a successful operation. And I got to a point where I had saved $30 million for one of these companies, just one of the contracts I did for them, and nobody cared. Victoria, nobody cared. It didn't move the stock price, didn't do anything really for anybody. It's like, oh, this is terrible. I work with one entrepreneur because they say, does what you do for them work for me? And I said, it should. It's universal. And now they say, now my kids can go to college. My dream
Impact.
I can hire those people, right? And so that was my pet. That was the moment where I said, I can help everyone with this. And it's these businesses that really need the help, because so many people, whether it's a nonprofit or a business, right? Whether an entrepreneur or a nonprofit, right? Philanthropreneur. Love that. Love it. Right? Love it. Love you so much. Whether any of those things, right? They're looking at these big giant institutions for a model, and those institutional businesses, while they're successful, they weren't really getting it right. Everything went sideways with the Industrial Revolution when businesses got so big that silos around these disciplines developed, and then they got too attenuated, so they weren't talking to each other. And now you have companies where sales and marketing are not the same thing.
And actually, when a smaller business looks at a bigger corporate conglomerate as a model, the big conglomerates, and just I better put a disclaimer, this is a personal opinion. The bigger conglomerates, they have so much money, they can just sort of cover up the mistakes and move on. And so it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't really make them have an emotional reaction. It's like, oops, okay, do this and brush that underneath. For entrepreneurs, for nonprofits who we are really, really measuring and looking at the impact and the money we spend, those small glitches have a big impact on the mission that we're serving. And so if we can sort of maybe use them as a model of how to avoid things.
Yes. Yeah.
That might, but
they give us the confidence that the things we're talking about, like the importance of, and I use different terms for them, but I'll use the traditional terms: strategic planning, process automation, risk management, human resources or people management, which is different than leadership. That's another
absolutely,
right?
Hey,
sales,
I wrote the book
marketing.
On Board Pound Leadership.
Sales and marketing, right? These are the disciplines that are traditional. They're there for a reason, because those big companies were trying to approximate what we all feel we need, right? A local bakery gets too big, you got to hire somebody, there's dynamics there, you start to spread the word, all those things you need. Those are all traditional disciplines. But you're right, not only does the money cover up their mistakes, but then the institutional machine itself protects itself, right? So I've seen people leave corporate America, go start something, whether it's a nonprofit or a small business, and they're like, I'm great at hiring people. Are you? Because what I'm seeing is that you don't have the right people working for you. So how are you good? How did you used to do it? Oh, well, yeah.
My staff.
I'd get 3 clients, right? 3 candidates, and I'd interview them, and then I would push the button. And so there was an entire HR department that created the job posting, put it out to the world, vetted the first 50 candidates, teed up the 3 for you, put them on your calendar, you talk to them, and then afterwards you pick the one you liked. And then, right, and then they were onboarded by the machine.
Right.
You're terrible at hiring people. You're
also,
terrible
even
at
just talking about, I'm glad you brought up HR, because in the entrepreneurial nonprofit world, the smaller entities, HR has a totally different meaning. Okay. I consider that I have HR.
Yeah.
I don't have employees though. I have a team that I have to manage,
Yep.
but they're all contracted services. You know, I have a graphic designer. I have a web builder. I have all of these different people that I bring into my circle, but they don't have to be managed under that human resource umbrella. It's a whole new set of rules or game plan that you deal with when you're working with contracted services.
So you intuited, I have a value that I'm giving to people. And I can't do that alone. And so I'm going to find a way to delegate some of these tasks to them. And it didn't mean necessarily hiring somebody. It could have meant contracting somebody, right? There's lots of vehicles to get there. But you brought it back to where it made sense, which was, wait. Everybody's telling me I got to hire people. And I know that I need hands, but maybe there's a disconnect there because the institution only understands.
You need the service, not necessarily the person, or you don't need it consistently. Many nonprofits go with like peaks and valleys or needs and low times and high times. They have a fundraising season where it's a lot of emphasis is put on getting that money in. Then they have event season, So it's many of the tasks are not consistently needed throughout the year. So it's important to have a calendar. And I put that under that HR umbrella. You know, what human do you need?
Yes.
When do you need them? And how do you cycle them in and out?
Yeah. So beautiful. I love that and so how I talk about it is instead of human resources, I call it home, which is humans optimized in a meaningful environment. So I want to take the humans that I need for these things. I want to optimize them. Right. Because it's not that, I'm
writing that down.
Okay. I don't want to, right. It's not a touchy-feely thing. It's really, I need Victoria. How do I make sure that she's set up to be like her on 10, not 5, because she's dealing with organizational bureaucratic BS that serves me instead of her? Like, how can I optimize her in a meaningful environment, like a place where she's not just pulling a lever, she understands where the work she does, how that pushes forward our mission and vision and helps our constituents. And if I can do that, you're going to show up and you're going to kill it because we aligned on core values and the mission. And then I gave you a place that supported you being the best you.
Sean, you are going to get a byline in the next blog I wrote on home.
Humans optimized in a meaningful
I got that written down. I got that. Human optimized, meaningful environment. I got it.
Let's get rid of HR. Human resources, their cogs, their tools. I understand the idea of resource allocation.
Humans are always talking about policy and guideline, writing all of these books that the people have to read and, do they know this and that? If there are 1099 contracted services, you don't have to worry about that because they work when they want, where they want, and how they want, as long as you have done.
Yeah, you have an understanding in that contract of exactly what the services are and the mission that it's serving. And as long as they're hitting the metrics and achieving the goals, there you go. We're all on the same page. It can be internal, external, but they got to buy into that mission and the core values in that contracting phase, and then we're all good.
Okay, absolutely. So
Love
you're
it.
you're here where you are tonight, and I look. What if? The,
I ask it every day. Nothing great ever came out of the world, but for first having asked that question. What if we could put someone on the moon and bring them back? What if we could? What if everything we think about this topic is wrong? What if the sun doesn't go around the earth? What if the earth goes around the sun? Great questions that push boundaries,
and
unveil beautiful solutions.
it's another term I'm going to start using that more, because in my work, when I come across clients, organizations, the term I hear so much that makes the hair stand up, and I lose my hair. You can see how much I love.
These
Well,
grays
we've
came from
always
somewhere.
done it this way, and I always come back. But what if you
What if?
look at these new ways, the
Yeah.
2023 way of doing things?
Yeah.
And many nonprofits are stuck in the ways they've always done it, which, what if they could do it different?
What if?
What if?
And I've run some workshops at some of these giant companies. So this is me not bragging about something. This is me giving people license to think differently.
Yeah.
I have taken this into the halls of some of the biggest companies that you trust, and I have forced executives to play games where, like I say, assume a wormhole to another universe has opened up, and these are the people who live there. How do we serve them?
Yep.
Right. And they're like, well, but because they want to just do what they're doing based on their model of
Yep.
reality right now.
They stay in their
And that
silo.
exercise,
Mm-hmm.
and that exercise makes them go, oh, wait a minute. Our business isn't about, for example, convincing people
You're
that need
doing okay.
insurance.
Yeah, you're doing okay. How I do, and you used the term earlier, so I'm going to repeat it: strategic planning.
Yes.
How I do, I don't start where most people think, oh, well, we're going to list our values. No, we're going to start in innovative thinking.
Hmm?
I want you to write down some of the biggest goals or out of the world wacky ideas that you think this organization could look at in the next 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And write them down. We're not dealing with values, goals, mission, anything. What are some of your big ideas? What is that next big idea for this organization?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we start strategic planning.
When you have to break people from where they are. I love that. I like to start with core values because I say, if you start with, well, what could we do? You could get your place in the things that, but would I do that? Right? Like, would I? We could do that, but would I? Right? So for me, it's like, well, let's start with buy these things. No, every company I ever, because I have multiple ones,
Yeah.
right? Every one of them, this must be the case, right? Like if there's one that's like, well, we could do this and we could be, gazillionaires, but we'd have to defraud like just some people. But
Well, I mean,
there's some things we won't do,
yeah,
right?
and well, with
Yeah.
nonprofits, the compass is always the mission.
Yes.
And so they always that, and that's not necessarily core values. And so that's they always start with the mission. That should be written on the wall or stamped
Yep.
on the head. Somewhere
Yes.
it's imprinted in their being. And so that innovation, the compass is the mission.
Yeah.
That's where that innovation should evolve from. Then we can get into core values.
100%. Because with a nonprofit, unlike a corporation, right, where I say, am I even going to start this thing to do this thing? With the nonprofit, the mission is first.
Yes.
And then the core values are and how will we achieve that mission? So the core values then lay the lanes for the parameters in these. So if I'm not here as the nonprofit owner, all you teammates, employees, people helping, whatever, however, volunteers, however you define them, how to act when I'm not here, because these are the core values that guide us towards that mission, which is a little different than the spinning up a corporation. But yes, we're singing from the same hymn book, and I love it.
Okay, we're going to take a really quick break now. When you have these podcasts, you got to get in your your advertising or whatever announcements. But we're going to be back with the Nonprofit Corner podcast in just one moment. TPF Nonprofit Membership Program, a beacon lighting the way to success. This is the time to grab it. Pre-launch, save 50% plus it's a lifetime deal. Go to Nonprofit Corner right now. And we are back with the Nonprofit Corner podcast with your host, Dr. Victoria Boyd, and my guest, Sean Delaney. Oh my God, he is so full of energy, and we are just spitting out nuggets of knowledge. So I hope my listeners out there have run to get a pencil and paper to start writing down, and they can watch for my blog on home. It has imprinted in my brain.
I love it.
Okay, let's get into some real tactics that nonprofits can use. Yes, we're talking about business. We've been using business terms, but I loved what you said earlier. Business strategies are for nonprofits. It is a business model. I'm sorry, you have to think like an entrepreneur, but you have to implement systems, operations, and management tactics or strategies in order to build a successful core of your operation. Your programs might be different, your mission might be different, but the core of what you do, how you do it, there's certain, and you mentioned 10 basic things, but you mentioned the traditional way of doing business is unsustainable, and I use that term all along. Are you sustainable? And broken for small businesses. How does that also apply to nonprofits?
Right. So I see any exchange of value between groups of human beings that is commercialized as the same thing. So whether your mission is nonprofit, right, or these things of nonprofit or for-profit, it's just a way that the government can tax you differently and have different oversight over you. Yes. The real thing is I have a value that I can give to an identified group of recipients.
Yes.
I
solve a problem.
Thing. And whether that's Nike making shoes or a nonprofit saying, I'm going to bring new educational roads to underserved communities, it's still just, I have a thing that I want to bring to people and I need others around me doing it. And so there's a structure for that and a cadence for that. There's a way I can give people clarity, direction, processes that help us stay on track, right? Projects that help us know that we're meeting deadlines, metrics so we know whether or not we're flying the plane by looking out the window or with a dashboard.
Data, do your assessment.
When we change things, change management is a discipline in and of itself. Otherwise, you could blow up your entire thing when you know you have to pivot or do something differently based on that data that you have. Right. And so then we have change management. Then we have now we have people, right? We have to know how to onboard them, find the right people, draw them to us through our mission and core values and what we're going to be doing, and then tie their job to effectuating that purpose. So they're jazzed up every time they're pulling those levers. Right. And knowing how they're going to be judged. And then we manage them through that. We lead through inspiration aligned with that mission and vision, which is why everyone's here. And we push the bar. And that inspiration, I use inspiration instead of leadership because leadership implies the direction of changing the direction of others' behavior. And inspiration can also be internal. Yes. And so I like inspiration because it's me leading you, but also me leading me. So I am showing up as who I need to be as the face of this.
I use that term inspire a lot with some strategies. I have a framework called a super donor framework where I tell them to build your communication for engagement, inspire your audience to be more, to do more, and to love you more.
And that's where marketing and sales comes in, right? Marketing and sales.
It's all marketing and sales. Yep.
Combined, because in traditional, right, where we're trying to carve out fiefdoms and power, there's a lot of Fortune 100s right now that have marketing and sales as two different divisions. It blows my mind. They must be together. It's the same thing.
Peanut butter and jelly. I have images. Peanut butter and jelly. But see, a lot of in nonprofit, they're not selling products or services per se. They're trying to get fundraising and donations. And I'm saying fundraising is not your number one challenge. Marketing is your number one challenge.
Yes. It's
It's
they're still selling. It's
yeah,
not a product or service, but they're selling the effect of the dollars spent.
yes,
So
the
you will
impact.
make this
Yeah,
change.
the
It's the
impact.
impact,
Yeah.
which is great. And then ubiquity, that's how I call marketing and sales, right? Which is you don't need to be everywhere, because some people try to be everywhere. And some people try to hide because they're scared about what it means if too many people see them, right? I deal with that a lot, not so much in
And they
nonprofits
need to
because
get
they
out
know
of
they
this
got to
line
be
of
seen.
business. And
Right, exactly right. And so you don't see it as much with nonprofits. You see it with entrepreneurs, but not as much with nonprofits. But that does happen. But you need to be everywhere your avatar expects to see you.
yes.
And then you seem ubiquitous.
And flipping that, and what I teach is you got to know who is your avatar. What are they looking for and what do they need? And how you do that is through searching of what are they searching for. I do a lot with Google ad grants and ad campaigns, and does your website have the content that people are looking for? Is it built on SEO? Are they, people finding you because you are saying you have what they need? But how do you know that? And that's knowing your avatar. Who is your ideal audience? And many nonprofits don't think they have an ideal audience, but they do. I mean, everybody doesn't like warm and fuzzy puppies. I'm sorry, but it's
No. And when you try to sell to everyone, you don't sell to anyone.
Right. So
And
avatar finding that ideal, they just think if we put the mission out there, they will come because everybody wants to, help a good mission. No, you need to use it just like you say in business. The same tools should be used in marketing too.
I would take 100% of everyone who loves and needs me over 10% of the world any day.
Yeah.
Because it's just it's a better number. It's a better 100% of the people, right? 100% of the people who need me and want this and will support this is better than 10% of everybody, because it's just a headache. So you stop selling to everybody. There's the people who love what you are putting down will love it if you lean into that is what you are. Stop trying to
there's a
bifurcate.
concept out there by a good friend of mine talking about your top 100. What are your top 100 ideal customers, clients, donors? What does that look like? Don't try to work with thousands or anything. What are the top 100?
The thousands will fill in.
To them. Yep.
The thousands will fill in. Talk to the 100. Yes, love it.
Yeah.
And then last for us is we call it RAD. It's the risk assessment and defense, which is this is typically risk mitigation, risk assessment, right? That kind of thing. Risk management is traditionally. Now nonprofits typically get this more because there's such a compliance understanding kind of community, as opposed to the entrepreneurs that I talk to. Entrepreneurs kind of get dragged to this spot, right? I think a lot of nonprofits think they're already like, but so typically what I talk about in here is trademark, patent, this kind of thing. I say, once you build a beautiful castle, wolves will come, people will come looking. And so you need to keep things away from the castle. What keeps things away from your castle?
I understand that well. Let me give you a little story, and maybe some of these listeners can relate to this. Okay, we've already talked about the term philantrepreneur.
Yeah.
Back in 2011, for 8 years, I taught at UNLV nonprofit management, different courses and things. And I kept repeating in those courses, even though you're in philanthropy, you have to think like an entrepreneur. Through all that, the term for me, philantrepreneur, evolved. And I started a radio show, a blog talk show called The Philantrepreneur Show. And I started publishing the Philantrepreneur Journal, which was just tips and things. That went on it lasted actually 3 or 4 years. But in 2014, I had been on for 2 years. Out of the blue, a marketer called me, just picked up the phone and didn't know me, had seen the term philantrepreneur and saw that my number was local to his. Started talking. Anyway, we had a lot in common. We ended up talking for an hour. But then near the end of the conversation, he said, did you know that there was a German company tried to trademark philantrepreneur? I was like, what? No, I've had the URL, the domain, the radio show, the journal. And so it sort of put me in a tailspin and in panic mode. Hung up from him, literally found a trademark lawyer within an hour, was sitting in a parking lot on the phone talking to this lawyer.
Mhm.
What can I do? Oh, you know.
Yeah.
And so he said, give me a minute. He went away, came back in maybe 2 or 3 minutes. He said, okay, I got good news and I got bad news. I was like, oh, okay. He said, yes, there is a German company, and I know they're looking at you because they filed in Nevada. They filed corporate paperwork, you got a resident agent here, and filed for a USA patent.
Yeah.
And he said, but the good news is, he said, they have filed the paperwork wrong. It's going to be sent back to them for correction. He said, I can give you 72 hours and we can get it in underneath.
There you go.
So, but basically he wanted me to form a corporation with the name on it, because at that time my company was the Galaxy Group.
Okay.
And so, hey, I'm a nonprofit specialist. I had the nonprofit formed in 24 hours.
Right.
The Philanthropreneur Foundation was born September of 2014 so that we could file those trademark papers.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we got it 6 months later. And I'm like, whoa.
Love it.
So,
well, and this, yes, so this is a perfect example. So I call this the marsh, the moat, and the might, right? So if you have a castle, you have to keep people at a distance. The marsh is, let's put your castle in a place that's inhospitable to detractors. So, right, my 25 years of experience, it's going to be hard to compete with that if you don't also have it. My law degree, hard to compete. Well, how far ahead of, how many times I've talked about this. People can close that distance, they can steal, but it's going to be harder, right? Yeah. Now we get to the moat. These are patents, trademarks, copyright. These are the legally things, right? These are those barriers that go, well, if I'm going to do that, right, I either need a massive capital investment, I need a massive, right? There's stuff that's a better protection. And then the might is, now we got knights inside the castle. Now they're inside the walls. Now a German company's trying to trademark this out from under me. I have an attorney. Mm-hmm. So the might then becomes attorney, accountant, right? And insurance broker, right? These are like three of the key things that you would say, like, are you starting to spill into a place where you need, defense liability, right? Like,
emissions and director's insurance. Okay. Yeah.
So you need, right? So there's other stuff that you need in the bucket of risk assessment. Where am I vulnerable? Where could this fall apart? And then who can I get to help me? Because entrepreneurs, again, and even nonprofit owners, they're going to try to do it themselves. Don't try to do those things yourself. That last piece, don't do that.
And that's a lot of where my specialty, because part of my services, I help those visionaries, the founders, do their state filing and file that 1023 application. I'm a specialist in it. I focus on that. I believe that I have more skills and knowledge in that area than CPAs and lawyers, because they're dealing with a whole bunch of other stuff. They know how to fill out paperwork, but there's very specific questions that have to be answered the correct way, even down to certain language you have to use, that you could get that application messed up so bad that it will take 18 months to clear it up, just to clarify.
Yeah, this is really important, where I stress to people, like, this is not hey, I got a cousin and he might know some stuff, because as a lawyer, I have to constantly tell them, I'm a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. You're in my mastermind. You're in my place. I'm coaching you, but I'm not doing your legal stuff, because I was an environmental lawyer. Right. Like, so I'm a lawyer. I can read a contract. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, I know how to file a trademark. I'm not doing it for you, because the systems change all the time. Yeah. I took the bar
unless you're doing it consistently and keep up with the changes. And that's what I do. I tell them I'm a nonprofit specialist, and most lawyers can't claim specialist in anything. I think it's illegal. I'm not sure. I'm spouting here, but I can say I'm a specialist, and I do have a doctorate in organizational management. So that's my moat, So
and there's your moat, and I love it. Yes.
See, so I learned something.
Yes. So in this, In the R in harmonious. So the way, so I talked about strategic planning and all this, that I have different words for them. And so when I talk about having a harmonious business, it's because like home,
Yep.
right? And analyze and risk management and modify. When you take the 10 disciplines, how I redefine them back to their essence of what they are, it spells harmonious. And so I say, if you have these 10 working together, leveraging off of each other in the right way, you will have a harmonious business, nonprofit effort, bake sale, kids' birthday party, whatever it is, you must honor these dynamics in the right way.
And I'm going to get to one more thing that you wrote in here, that being an entrepreneur does not have to be stressful. And I'm targeting in on that one because the turnover rate in nonprofit leadership is so high because of the stress and the demands put on them. So just touch on that quickly.
Yes. So, a huge thing that happens with people when they come to me is they say, well, you got to, with time management, right? They want one of two things. They want marketing because more leads into a broken system is going to break them, but they think more leads, right? Or time management. I'm swamped. I'm dying. Okay. It's because you have too many things on your calendar. You don't manage time any more than the person on the river in the raft manages the river. You don't manage the river, you manage your place in it, right? So you manage your allocation of time. Too many businesses and nonprofits waste time trying to save money. Money is infinite, time is finite. You do not waste time to save money, you spend money to save time.
Oh, I love it.
Right? And so time, right, is being that ultimate. Now I need to know how to allocate it. Well, there's a lot of stuff that you do that you shouldn't be doing. So entrepreneur, nonprofit person, how do they do it? They fall into it. They have this mission. They start taking on all the work. Now it's too much. So they find some help, whether it's asking a cousin or hiring somebody or outsourcing it to somebody. But all that work now is too much. And so then stuff that they think they should be doing and can't get to gets delayed because nobody can get to it. And then it eventually gets delayed so far that it dies on the vine, it gets deleted. That is the absolute opposite direction in which it should be done. What should happen is, I know what our mission is and vision is and core values so clearly and dialed down to this quarter specifically that I know when something should be deleted. This is a great idea. We're never going to do it. Stop talking about it. The next thing is, now that's pretty good. But it's not for this quarter because we already know what we're doing. So we're going to put it in a bucket. It's going to sit there. It's not going to be lost, but we're going to delay it. And then when somebody can do it and we think we should do it, then it will be delegated. Won't be me. Won't be you, Victoria. It's going to be somebody delegated to somebody. And then when it's can only be done by me, we know we can't delete it. We can't delay it anymore. Has to get done, but can't be delegated. Must be me. Only those things go on my calendar. And you will be amazed at the clarity and purpose and freedom you have.
I love this concept because I just haven't eloquated or conveyed it so simply the way you just did it. In order to save time, you've got to spend money. Because
I call it the 4 Ds.
Deal with the Google ad grants.
The 4 Ds of serenity. Your calendar management. This is the 4 Ds of time management. You have to do it in that order. And if you do it in that order, but you can't do that unless you do the core values and mission, vision, like what we talked about first.
Yeah, we get that. I talk a lot about Google ad grants. Yeah. And they say, oh, well, I can manage them myself. You're going to learn a whole new skill set to manage these ad grants because that's digital marketing. That's going into Google Analytics and doing a whole lot of technical things that really pulls them away from their mission when they technically could very reasonably pay for an ad manager, get, $10,000 per month in free ads. Hello?
What are we doing here? Where do I sign up? What is this? Why am I doing it myself? Yes.
And I don't know why that's such a hard concept for them. Yes, you pay $399 a month to get 10,000, but it frees you up to have all of this other systems and happening because of these ads. I know I went on my own little
No, amen. God bless you. You're passionate about it, and you're seeing this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything new.
No,
I'm saying this is what runs under everything. And you have to acknowledge it, and you're acknowledging that you felt it too.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep. So how can people contact you? I know you have a special giveaway. Tell us about this giveaway if they want to.
So
bad assessment.
The bad assessment. You can be a badass assessment. Have it right. Okay.
Oh,
so bad.
I
bad
saw that, but I said no. I must be reading it wrong.
No. Bad. No, the bad assessment. So the bad stands for the business architecture diagnostic. I used to charge the Fortune 50 companies 6 figures just to do this. I've now found a way to make it free. It is an 8-minute diagnostic that will ask you 5 questions in each of the 10 disciplines, super fast. You don't even have to type anything in.
Tell people to follow the link that's going to be in this broadcast. It's going to be
follow this link,
your name here and in the description. It's going to, and if they want to reach out to you any other way, how can they do that?
Well, first take that bad assessment, because it's going to tell you in that, it's going to tell you how you're doing on these 10 and the next step that you should do to shore it up. So it's massive value.
Okay.
I'm not even selling you anything with that. That's just there, right?
Okay.
And then after that, we'll have your name and email, and we'll send you something saying, do you want to talk about it or not? And then there's lots of ways to interact and play with us in the world. Some are even just joining our mastermind. But if people take that this month, they get a free month inside of my mastermind where I break all of this down every week with a cadence. They come into our coaching platform. We'll have their scores. We'll tell them specific things they could do to move their business forward. And after a month, if they want to stick around, it's $400 a month to stick around and do that with other people. And if not, I guarantee you I will have moved their business ahead.
Absolutely. So I'm going to make sure that this podcast is promoted to not only entrepreneurs, but nonprofits, but also entrepreneurs. Beautiful. And it has truly been my pleasure to have you as a guest today, Sean Delaney. What if?
What if it could be better? What if it could be easier, Victoria?
Absolutely. We're going to say what if and make everything better. This is Dr. Victoria Boyd, your host of the Nonprofit Corner podcast, and we will see you next time.